Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to share practical methods to overcome shyness and build genuine social confidence. If you've been feeling like shyness is holding you back from opportunities, relationships, or expressing your true self, this video is specifically for you. Are you struggling with things like this? Maybe your heart starts racing when you need to meet new people. Perhaps you hold back from speaking up in meetings even when you have valuable ideas to share. Do you find yourself replaying conversations in your mind, cringing at what you said or didn't say? Or maybe you avoid social gatherings altogether because the anxiety feels overwhelming. Many people have the same concerns. In fact, research shows that a significant portion of adults experience social anxiety at various points in their lives. You're definitely not alone in this struggle. Here's what I want you to know. The methods I'm sharing today might be helpful. These aren't just theories, these are proven, practical techniques that thousands of people have used to transform from anxious and withdrawn to confident and socially connected. Some of these methods might feel uncomfortable at first, and that's completely normal. But stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have concrete steps you can take immediately to start your journey toward social confidence. Let's talk about why shyness happens in the first place. Understanding the root cause makes it much easier to address. First, your brain has been trained over time to perceive social situations as threatening. When you enter a social setting, your brain triggers the same fight or flight response it would if you were facing actual danger. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your mind goes blank. These are all survival responses that made sense for our ancestors facing predators but don't serve us well in conversations at coffee shops or networking events. This was actually the cause of those physical symptoms you experience. Second, you've developed what psychologists call negative thought patterns. These are automatic predictions your brain makes, like, everyone will think I'm boring, or, I'm going to embarrass myself. These thoughts feel true in the moment, but they're actually predictions, not facts. The problem is that when you believe these thoughts, you act in ways that sometimes make them come true. You might speak quietly, avoid eye contact, or leave conversations early, and then your brain says, "See? I was right to be anxious." It's a cycle that keeps reinforcing itself. Here's the common mistake many people make. They think shyness is just their personality, something fixed and unchangeable, like eye color. This is why this approach doesn't work. Viewing shyness as permanent makes you give up before you even try. But research institutions worldwide have proven that shyness and social anxiety are learned behaviors, which means they can be unlearned. You're not changing who you are, you're removing barriers that have been covering up your authentic self. That's a crucial distinction, and it's why there's so much hope in this process. Now let's dive into the practical methods that will help you break out of your shell. I'm going to share techniques you can start using today. These methods are backed by research and, more importantly, by real people who have successfully overcome shyness using them. The first method is called gradual exposure therapy, and it's one of the most effective techniques available. Here's what you do. Start by creating your personal fear ladder. Take a piece of paper or open a note on your phone, and list social situations from least scary to most challenging. At the bottom might be something like making eye contact with a cashier or saying hello to a neighbor. In the middle might be starting a conversation with a coworker or asking a question in a small meeting. At the top might be your biggest challenges, like speaking in front of a group or going to a party where you don't know many people. Be honest and specific about what feels scary to you. Here's the key. Start at the very bottom of your ladder with the easiest situation. Practice that one situation daily until it feels comfortable, which usually takes about a week. For example, if your first step is making eye contact and smiling at cashiers, do that every single day when you buy coffee or groceries. At first, your heart might race a bit. That's normal, but by day 3 or 4, you'll notice it gets easier. By day 7, you'll probably do it without even thinking about it. That's when you know you're ready to move to the next rung on your ladder. What makes this method so effective is that you're training your brain through experience that these situations aren't actually dangerous. Each time you face a fear and survive it, better yet, handle it successfully, your brain updates its threat assessment. The anxiety response gets weaker. Never jump ahead on your ladder. If you skip steps, you might overwhelm yourself and end up avoiding social situations even more. Slow and steady wins this race. Keep a simple progress journal where you check off each day you complete your practice. Seeing your streak of successes is incredibly motivating and helps you see how far you've come. After 1 month of consistent practice, you'll be amazed at how situations that once terrified you now feel manageable or even easy. The second method is cognitive reframing, which is a fancy term for changing how you think about social situations. Here's how to do this. When you notice anxious thoughts before social situations, and you will notice them once you start paying attention, write them down exactly as they appear in your mind. You might write something like, "Everyone will think I'm weird," or "I'm going to say something stupid and embarrass myself," or "Nobody wants to talk to me." Get them out of your head and onto paper or into a notes app. Now comes the important part. For each thought, ask yourself these questions. First, what's the actual evidence for this thought? Have people explicitly told you they think you're weird, or is this just a feeling? Second, what would you tell a close friend who was thinking this way? Usually, we're much kinder to others than to ourselves. Third, what's a more realistic way to view this situation? Instead of, "Everyone will think I'm weird," a more balanced thought might be, "Some people might not connect with me, and that's completely normal. Others probably will. I don't need everyone to like me." The goal isn't to replace negative thoughts with unrealistically positive ones, that doesn't work. The goal is to replace distorted, exaggerated thoughts with balanced, realistic ones. Practice this every time you catch yourself in anxious thinking. At first, it might take 10 or 15 minutes to work through one thought. That's fine. You're building a new mental habit, and like any new skill, it takes time. After about a week, you'll start catching your negative thoughts more quickly. After a month, something remarkable happens. Your brain starts automatically generating more balanced thoughts. The anxious predictions still pop up sometimes, but they're quieter and easier to dismiss because you've trained your brain to question them. Let me share a real-world example. Someone practicing this method noticed the thought, "I have nothing interesting to say," before a work lunch. Instead of accepting that as truth, they asked themselves, "Is this actually true? I just finished an interesting book, I had a funny experience with my dog this weekend, and I've been working on a challenging project." The reframed thought became, "I might not be the most talkative person, but I have experiences and interests I can share if the conversation goes there." That small shift made the lunch feel less intimidating. They actually ended up having a good conversation about their book and discovered a coworker also loved dogs. That wouldn't have happened if they'd stayed in the, "I have nothing to say," mindset. The third method is what I call the pre-social confidence routine. This is something you do for about 5 minutes before entering any social situation. It might sound simple, but the research behind this is solid, and many people find it makes a huge difference. Here's exactly what to do. Find a quiet space, a bathroom stall, your car, an empty room, somewhere you can be alone for a few minutes. Stand up straight with your feet about shoulder width apart, put your hands on your hips, lift your chin slightly, and hold this pose for 2 full minutes. This is called a power pose. Research institutions have found that holding your body in this confident position actually changes your hormones. It can increase your confidence hormones and decrease your stress hormones. Yes, just from standing differently. It might feel silly at first, but the physical effects are real. Don't skip this part just because it feels awkward when no one's watching. While you're doing your power pose, or right after, use self-affirmation statements. Choose 2 or 3 statements that resonate with you personally. They might be things like, I am capable of handling this situation, I have interesting things to contribute, people generally respond positively to me, or, it's okay to be imperfect. Say them out loud if you can, or silently if you need to be discreet. The key is to say them with intention, not just mumble through them. You're training your brain to adopt these beliefs. Finally, spend a minute visualizing the social situation going well. Picture yourself walking in with your shoulders back. Imagine making eye contact and smiling. See yourself speaking clearly and calmly. Visualize others responding positively, nodding, smiling, engaging with you. Picture yourself feeling comfortable and present in the moment. This isn't just wishful thinking. Visualization is used by athletes, performers, and professionals worldwide because mentally rehearsing success actually improves your real-world performance. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between vivid imagination and reality, so you're essentially giving yourself a successful practice run before the real thing. Make this 5-minute routine automatic before every social situation you can. Before the meeting, before the party, before the coffee date, take 5 minutes to prepare. You'll notice the effects immediately. You'll walk into situations feeling noticeably calmer and more grounded. After a month of consistent practice, the confidence you're rehearsing starts becoming your natural baseline state rather than something you need to pump yourself up for. The fourth method is strategic question asking, and it's a game changer for people who feel pressure to be interesting or entertaining in conversations. Here's the secret: you don't need to be the most fascinating person in the room. You just need to be genuinely curious about others. Prepare a mental list of open-ended questions. These are questions that can't be answered with just yes or no. Good examples include, what's keeping you busy these days? What do you like to do when you're not working? How did you get into your current field? What's something you're excited about right now? Notice that these questions invite stories and real conversation rather than one-word answers. When you're in a conversation, pick one of your prepared questions and ask it. Then, and this is the most important part, actually listen to the answer. Really listen. Don't spend the time while they're talking thinking about what you're going to say next. Don't evaluate how you're coming across. Just focus entirely on what they're saying. When you're genuinely listening, you'll naturally notice interesting details you can follow up on. If someone says they're excited about a project at work, you can ask what makes it exciting. If they mention a hobby, you can ask how they got started with it. Conversations flow naturally when you're truly curious rather than trying to perform or impress. Here's why this works so well. First, people generally enjoy talking about themselves and their interests, so you're giving them something pleasant to do. Second, when you're focused on them, the pressure is off you. You're not scrambling to be clever or interesting, you're just being curious. Third, people actually perceive good listeners as interesting and likable. Ironic, right? You don't need to be the life of the party. Just being genuinely engaged makes people enjoy talking with you. Within a week of practicing this approach, you'll notice conversations feel less like performances you're failing at and more like natural exchanges. After a month, asking questions and listening actively will feel completely natural, and you'll find people often respond very warmly to your genuine interest in them. The fifth method is joining a structured social practice environment. This might feel like the biggest step, but it's also one of the most effective for creating rapid improvement. Look for an improv class, a Toastmasters group, a social anxiety support group, or an online community specifically focused on social skills. The key is finding an environment where social practice is the actual goal and where everyone understands they're there to improve. Here's why this is so powerful. First, everyone there knows that social practice is the purpose, so there's no pressure to already be smooth or confident. Awkwardness is expected, even welcomed, as part of the learning process. In an improv class, for example, making mistakes and being silly is literally the point. It teaches you that awkward moments aren't catastrophic. Second, you're in an environment where people don't already know you, which means you have freedom to try on new behaviors without worrying about how it fits with people's existing expectations of you. You can experiment with being more outgoing, more spontaneous, more expressive, and see what feels right. Attend your chosen group regularly, ideally weekly. Consistency is what creates growth. You'll feel nervous before that first session. Everyone does. Go anyway. Participate actively in the exercises and activities even when your instinct is to hold back. Remember, everyone else is there to practice too. Many people specifically recommend improv classes because they make uncertainty and awkwardness part of the fun rather than something to fear. You learn that you can handle unexpected situations, that thinking on your feet is a skill you can develop, and that mistakes often lead to the best moments rather than disasters. After 1 week, you'll feel nervous but genuinely proud of yourself for taking this step. After 1 month of regular attendance, you'll notice significant improvements in your comfort with spontaneous conversation, thinking on your feet, and expressing yourself. You'll also likely make friends with others who understand your journey because they're on it too. The sixth method is practicing acceptance and self-compassion, and this might be the most important foundation for everything else. Here's what this looks like in practice. When you notice yourself being harsh and self-critical during or after social interactions, and you will notice this once you start paying attention, pause and acknowledge it. Just say to yourself, I'm being really hard on myself right now. That simple acknowledgement creates a little space between you and the critical voice. Then, deliberately speak to yourself the way you would speak to a close friend or someone you care about. If a friend told you they felt they said something awkward at a party, you wouldn't say, "Yeah, you're terrible at socializing. Everyone probably thought you were weird." You'd say something kind like, "Everyone says awkward things sometimes. I bet people weren't judging you as much as you think. And even if it was awkward, that doesn't define you." Give yourself that same kindness. Remind yourself that awkward moments happen to literally everyone and they don't define your worth or your social capabilities. Accept that being imperfect is part of being human, not a personal failing. One of the biggest barriers to social confidence is perfectionism, the belief that you need to be smooth, charming, and never awkward for people to like you. That's simply not true. People generally like authenticity, even when it's a little awkward, much more than they like perfect performances. Research shows that self-compassion actually improves performance and resilience. When you're kind to yourself about mistakes, you learn from them more effectively and bounce back faster. When you're harsh with yourself, you just feel worse and often avoid trying again. Practice this actively. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm so stupid," or "I'm terrible at this," stop and rephrase. "I'm learning this skill, and it's okay to not be perfect while I'm learning." That moment felt uncomfortable, and that's a normal part of growth. Within a week of practicing self-compassion, you'll catch yourself being self-critical more often, which is actually progress. It means you're becoming aware. After a month, responding to yourself with kindness will start becoming more automatic. The emotional sting of perceived social failures will lessen significantly because you'll stop beating yourself up about them. Let me summarize what we discussed today. First, use gradual exposure therapy by creating your fear ladder and systematically working through it from easiest to hardest situations. Next, practice cognitive reframing by writing down anxious thoughts and challenging them with evidence and realistic alternatives. Then, implement the pre-social confidence routine with power posing, affirmations, and visualization before social situations. Also, use strategic question asking by focusing on curiosity about others rather than trying to be interesting yourself. Additionally, join a structured practice environment like an improv class or support group where social skill development is the explicit goal. And finally, embrace self-compassion by treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend. The most important thing is to start with one method that feels manageable to you. Please start with whichever technique feels like the smallest step. You don't need to do all of these at once. In fact, starting with just one and doing it consistently will create better results than trying to do everything and getting overwhelmed. After watching this video, please try creating your fear ladder first. It only takes 5 minutes, so try it right now. Just grab your phone and make a simple note listing social situations from least to most scary for you. That simple act of writing it down makes the challenge feel more concrete and manageable. Then, starting tomorrow, practice that first easiest situation every single day. You might feel changes within a week. Seriously, 1 week of daily practice on your easiest fear can show you that change is possible, and that momentum will carry you forward. Remember, it's okay if you're not perfect at this at first. Nobody is. You'll have days when you feel like you're making progress and days when you feel like you're back at square one. That's completely normal. The path to social confidence isn't a straight line upward. It's more like a spiral where you're generally moving forward even if you sometimes revisit old feelings. Continuing little by little is what matters. Every confident person you admire once felt shy in situations that now feel easy to them. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're simply learning new skills, and skills improve with practice. If today's content was helpful, please hit the like button. It helps more people find this information. If you want to know more practical solutions for everyday challenges, please subscribe to the channel. I create videos on various topics to help you live your best life, and I'd love to have you as part of this community. Let's solve problems together, one video at a time. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I believe in your ability to break out of your shell and connect with others in meaningful ways. You've got this. See you in the next video.